Hi everyone! Today we're going to be learning about sweet pastry. We're going to make our doughs, we're going to be learning about the shaping, the blind baking, the fillings and, well, the toppings as well. So let's start baking. Now, for the sweet pastry, we need some butter. Now, if you're going to be doing this by hand, we really need soft butter, not melted, but soft. That means you need to put your finger on top and a little bit of butter should come out. You can use your microwave, or you can just take that butter out from the fridge about 2 hours before you decide to start baking. I'm going to place all that butter here in my bowl. This is unsalted butter. And I'm going to be using some sugar. Now, you can use caster sugar or icing sugar. I believe for this recipe it's always better if we can use icing sugar. The texture of our sweet pastry is going to be much better. So I have some icing sugar in here, all of it. And now with my wooden spoon, I'm going to start mixing both things together until we have a nice creamy texture. Start slowly. The icing sugar is quite sensitive. So at the beginning it's going to seem like nothing is happening, but trust the process and just keep mixing gently all our ingredients together. Okay, this is looking good, but I'm not there yet. Once you cannot see that much icing sugar in your bowl, I think you can start increasing the speed of the mixing. And I'm going to do this until I cannot see any lumps of butter. Beautiful. This is what we want. Looks like a mayonnaise, but it's not. So at this stage, we are ready to add the wet ingredients. We're going to be using only egg yolks. Now, why only yolks and not whole eggs? Because we want more color in the pastry. You can use whole eggs if you want, but we believe that egg yolks are making the pastry much better. So all my yolks in. And again, using the same wooden spoon, I'm going to start mixing the ingredients together. Start slowly. And then you can increase the speed of the mixing. Perfect. So, butter, icing sugar and egg yolks all combined. This is what we have. Nice yellow color. Okay, now it's time to add my dry ingredients. I'm going to use some flour and a bit of baking powder. The baking powder is going to help me to lift a little bit my pastry in the oven. So I'm going to first take my wooden spoon out. I think I don't need this anymore. So using a bread scraper, just clean that spoon and take everything out. And now I'm ready to add the dry ingredients. So bread flour and baking powder. Now, using a bread scraper, I'm going to start mixing slowly all my ingredients. So holding the scraper this way, the round edge goes inside, and then gently I'm going to fold over and mix all together. We're going to keep doing this until you have something looking like breadcrumbs or crumbly. As you can see, I'm trying to avoid having my hands involved. Your hands are a bit warm, so if you put your hands at this stage, maybe the butter can start melting, and we don't want that. We want to try to keep the butter as cold as possible. As you can see, I'm just scraping my bowl. Everything needs to be mixed. And at this stage, when the mixture is looking more yellow and you cannot see much dry flour in there, you can start using your hands. I always like to use one hand for baking, and I like to try to keep the other one cleanish, just in case you need to do something. So right hand side in, and I'm going to start massaging my dough inside the bowl until it's all combined. Don't put too much pressure. Again, if you touch it too much, the butter is going to start melting. Great, I can see now this is looking good. Looks more like a dough now. So at this stage, I'm going to take everything out from the bowl. I'm going to clean everything, clean bowl on the side. And also I'm going to clean my hand using the same scraper. Between your fingers. Great. Now, once you have all that dough on the table, we are going for a quick kneading. We are not looking for any gluten development here. It's just to make sure that everything is combined. So using the heel of my hands, I'm going just to roll the pastry on the table. You can use both if you want. And I'm going to do this about 5 times. So roll and bring back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's it. I know it's nice and soft, but please do not over touch it. So once you cannot see dry bits of flour and all that butter is well mixed, it's time to chill the dough in the fridge. Ideally, you need to keep this for about 2 hours in the fridge, and then it's going to be easier for the shaping and the rolling of your tarts. If you don't have that time, maybe you can rush the process a little bit, leaving your pastry in the freezer, but ideally use your fridge. Also, you can do this in advance, maybe 2-3 days in advance, and keep the pastry in the fridge, and then when you're ready to use it, you take it out and you roll it, and also can stay for about 3 months in your freezer. So, to chill the pastry, I'm going to be using a piece of parchment paper. I'm going to place my dough in the middle, and then using the heel of my hand, I'm going to make it into something flat. Why? Because I want to chill my pastry a bit fast. I don't have much time today, so I'm just thinking about 3 hours for the full process. So to have a quick chill, using the heel of your hand, make the pastry flat, and then wrap the paper and my pastry is ready to go in the fridge. Again, at least 45 minutes, but you can push up to 3 days. So I will put this in the fridge, and then we are going to talk about the shaping of the tarts, the blind baking, and the final bake. Right, so it's been about 45 minutes since I put my pastry in the fridge. Now it's time for the shaping. Today I'm going to make 3 individual tarts, but what you can do is, following the same recipe, you can just make a big one, about 22 centimeters round. So pastry, nice and chill, so let's just take this out from the parchment paper. And because I'm going to make 3 small ones, I'm going to divide my dough in thirds. Right, so they look similar, so I'm going to start working with my first piece. Now, the pastry is really cold, so if you try to put the rolling pin right on top now, it's going to crack, and then you need to start shaping them again. So to avoid that, I'm going to warm the pastry a little bit. I don't want them that soft, but just easier to roll, let's say. So using both hands, I'm going to massage the dough for about 30 seconds. You're going to start feeling that the pastry is getting softer, which is good, and it's going to be much easier to shape. Great. Now, for the shaping, I'm going to use just a small foil tin and a rolling pin, and I need to dust the table with a bit of flour. Doesn't matter what type of flour, just plain or strong flour is fine. So just a pinch of flour on the table, your dough, and an extra pinch on top. And then using the rolling pin, I'm going to start rolling the pastry up and down and move the dough around just to make sure it's not stuck on the table. Move it around, roll up and down, and rotate, up and down. What we are looking for here is to have something about 3 millimeters in thickness, which is kind of like a pound coin, or you can just use a ruler. So let me check quickly. Yes, 3 millimeters. I'm going to use the foil tin for this, so holding the sweet pastry, I'm going to use my thumbs, and the idea is to fit the pastry right at the bottom of the tin, and then with your thumbs we're going to push the pastry, making sure that it's touching every single part. Now don't worry if it cracks, we're going to fix that later. Go around gently. Good. So it's okay, but I can see on one part it's a bit of a crack, it's a big crack. So I don't want to bake my case like this. So before I start fixing this, I'm going to cut the excess using a scraper or a knife. And now, making the sides nice and smooth, I'm ready to start fixing the little holes that I have at the base. So we can just use the same pastry and replace the top. No one will know that you had a crack there, okay? Just grab some extra pastry and fix it. Beautiful. Right, so this is what we want. Nicely lined, about 3 millimeters, all covered in pastry. So before baking these, we're going to send them back in the fridge. We were touching the dough for too much, so I don't want to put soft dough in the oven. In that case, you're going to have a lot of leaking butter during the baking. So I'm going to place this in the fridge for another 15 minutes, and then I'm going to preheat my oven and bake them. So with the scraps, you can just keep them on the side and reuse it for your next pastry, or you can make maybe some biscuits, or in the freezer for 3 months. Okay, I'm going to shape another one. So again, remember, a quick massage in your dough. Try to make it nice and soft, but not too soft, because in that case, it's going to stuck on the table, and then you need to add a lot of flour for the rolling. If you have cold hands, this is your call. If you have very warm hands, what you can do, maybe just try to wash your hands with really cold water just to slow down the heat. And please work in a cold room. Maybe that can help. Right, so massage my dough, pinch of flour on the table, my pastry, pinch of flour on top, no more than that. Rolling pin. Again, from the middle, roll up and down, and rotate your dough. We're going to try to keep a round shape during the rolling. And what we want is something about 3 millimeters in thickness. So let me check. Yes, great. Now I have my foil case. And again, I'm going to hold it with both hands, fold it with my thumbs, and let's try to fit the pastry inside. If you're making a big one, I think it's going to be much easier than shaping small ones. Now, if at this point you can see the pastry is cracking too much, that means it's really cold. So probably you can just take that out, massage a little bit more, and then roll it again. Okay, so the base looks nice, the edges looks nice, but I have a lot of leftover pastry, so I'm going to use my scraper, or you can just use a knife, and we can go gently around, cutting the excess of dough. Remember, this excess can be used for another tart, or you can make something else. Scraps on the side. And because I'm not quite happy with the ends, I'm going to use my fingertips and I'm trying to shape this into something more even, roundish piece. Again, make sure you don't have any cracks, especially if you're going to use this base for an English custard tart. We want to avoid that. Good, and then using my scraper, I'm going to cut the excess. Really nice. If you want to move to the next stage, what you can do is using your scraper or maybe a teaspoon, we can make a nice pattern on the outside. So I'm going to use the round edge of my scraper, and maybe we can just go for a few cuts. Even better. Okay, this goes in the fridge for 15 minutes and then it's ready to blind bake. So while my pastry is chilling, I'm going to preheat the ovens. I have fan ovens, so I'm going to put them in 160 degrees fan, 180 if you have convection ovens. Right, so after 15 minutes of your tarts in the fridge, they are going to look like this, nice and hard, perfect for the blind baking. The reason because we blind bake our tarts is because if you just bake your tart as it is with nothing on top, the pastry is going to puff too much and then you're not going to have enough space for the filling. So it's always good to put some weight on top, and in this case I'm going to use some rice, some beans, and also I have some lentils, but you can just buy the proper baking beans. If you don't have them at home, don't worry, just use whatever you have. Could be lentils, could be beans, could be rice, and then you can just reuse it for another bakings. So for the blind baking, I'm going to use a piece of parchment paper and I'm going to squeeze it with my hands. This is going to help me to achieve to have a nice distribution of rice, especially underneath. So open the piece of parchment paper and now goes directly on top of your dough. And again, make sure the pastry is all covered with the parchment paper. Once you finish with the paper, it's time to add the beans. So I have the rice, lentils, and beans here. So I'm going just to fill them to the top. And make sure you don't have any rice in between the pastry and the paper. We want only the beans on top of the parchment paper. Once you have them covered, it's time to put them on a tray, and I'm going to repeat the process with the other two. Right, so my oven is ready, 160 degrees fan. I'm going to bake them 15 minutes with the beans on, and then I'm going to take them out from the oven. I'm going to take the parchment paper and the beans out, and I'm going to add another 10 minutes just to make sure the base is well baked. Right, so 15 minutes after, I'm going to take my tarts out from the oven and the beans out. Right, being very careful, let's try to take that paper out. And please don't break the dough on the side. And let's repeat the same with the other two. Okay, so now I'm going to send them back in the oven for about 10 minutes because I can see a light color on the edge, but the bottom is still raw, so we need to make sure it's all nice and baked. Now I'm going to use these tarts to put some creme patisserie on top, but in case you want to use this recipe for some custard tart, what I recommend to do at this point is to brush the base with a bit of egg yolk. This is going to prevent having leaking custard during the baking, so probably can save you time for your English tart. So I'm not going to do that because it's just a simple creme patisserie tart. So what I'm looking for now at this point is to have a golden base. 10 minutes more in the oven and then I will show you how it looks. So after 10 minutes in the oven, my tarts are ready. So I'm going to take them out. Beautiful. So let me show you what we are looking for at this point. We want, of course, golden ends, but also a little bit of color at the base. That's the perfect sign that your tarts are perfectly baked. Now, before you do something with these, they need to cool down. So it doesn't matter if you're going to add maybe a custard or if you're going to put creme patisserie in there. Please make sure your tarts are completely cooled down before you add something in there. In case you don't want to fill them today, you can just keep them wrapped maybe in cling film, room temperature, and they are going to stay fine for about 2-3 days. So I'm going to cool them in the tin, but let me show you how the base looks like. Also nice and golden brown. Perfect, it's baked. So I'm going to leave it in the same case. You can just do that. It doesn't matter if you're using a big one or a small one. To cool down, I will say it's going to take at least 20 minutes. So don't rush the cooling process, be patient, and then prepare your fillings because that's the next step. Okay everyone, so my sweet tarts are completely cooled down, so we can say we are ready for the final touch. I'm going to take them out from my foil tin, being careful. Beautiful. I'm going to place them on the pizza peel. They are quite fragile, so please, careful. Great. So I'm going to be filling my tart with some creme patisserie. We have 3 different flavors today, and if you want to learn how to make them, please check the videos in our donut club. So you're going to be learning a different type of creme patisserie every single month. You can use it for your donuts, but also you can use it for your sweet tarts. I'm going to start with a pistachio creme patisserie. It's made with a lovely pistachio paste. So I just have everything in my piping bag and I'm going to press from the top, and carefully I'm going just to pour that custard in there. As much as you want. I'm going to level the top with the back of the spoon. And I'm going to finish with some fresh raspberries. And why not a final touch of crushed pistachios, just to add an extra green color on the top. And look how cute they look. Okay, moving on to the next one. We have a salted caramel creme patisserie. So in this one, we're going to put salted caramel inside, and then I just roast some walnuts. So the idea is to put some walnuts on top, or you can also put them as a base and then the salted caramel, or in between, walnuts, creme pat and walnuts on top, so you have kind of like a sandwich. It's nice to add some nuts into these tarts because you want something crunchy after all the sweetness of your creme patisserie. So I have a salted caramel creme pat. I'm going to start adding little by little here, all the way to the top. And now it's time for the crushed and roasted walnuts. You can just go rustic, but generous at the same time. Okay, and now we're going to make our last one. It's going to be a chocolate creme patisserie, and then we're going to add some cocoa powder on top and flaky sea salt. So I have here my chocolate creme pat. Let's go then. Right to the top. I'm going to level the top with my scraper. And let's go for some cocoa powder. After the cocoa powder, maybe a bit of flaky sea salt just to help with the chocolate flavor. And look how beautiful they look. So it's just a simple recipe, sweet pastry, many ways that you can use it. As I said before, you can use it for savory things, but maybe for sweet things like Bakewell tart, English custard tart, fruit tarts. So you can be creative also with the flavor of the creme patisserie and also with the toppings on top. So we are at the end of our little class. I really hope you enjoy, you learn something, and please keep baking, and well, I will see you again maybe for another baking class. Ciao, hasta la vista, baby. We finish. That's it. Finito. Ciao, basta. Basta.
That's all going.
Ba.
That's not going in the blue.
Basta.